This is Election 2021, the Las Cruces City Council Forum for District 3. Thanks for being with us. Our rules today are simple. Candidates have 1 minute to answer each question, and they should not mention an opponent in their answer. I'm joined by Laura Castille of the League of Women Voters of Southern New Mexico. Our candidates are Bev Courtney and Becki Graham. Bev, we start with you for the first question. Why are you running for City Council?
Okay, Fred, thank you. As you know, it's my third race, and I do it because I keep fighting for my Christian conservative values. And it seems like we keep getting away from the law that we've enjoyed for 200 plus years that give us freedom and liberty. And I am wanting to bring attention to our election process. Over the time that I have been in politics, I've been in court over the election process. I've watched the state gut the election laws that safeguard one citizen, one verified vote, and they just keep loosening up the laws. And free and fair elections are the foundation of a limited republic and the foundation of everything that we hold dear.
Thank you very much, Bev. Becki.
Thank you, Fred and Laura, for hosting us. I've lived in Las Cruces for more than 20 years, the last 15 of those in District 3. I did my master's and PhD work at NMSU, and that's where I've launched my career. I would bring to the council more than a decade of economic development experience. I have researched, designed, and implemented programs that try to advance prosperity for the state of New Mexico, but especially right here in the borderland. I've also been an English instructor at DACC for several years, and that really gave me the opportunity to meet people coming from our community, coming from District 3, many of them from low and moderate income households. And I see firsthand how hard they're willing to work in a system that often doesn't really allow them to get ahead. What really pushed me to seek a council seat has been the last year and a half of COVID. I'm the wife and the daughter of frontline COVID workers.
Thank you very much, Becki. We're out of time. Laura.
Becki, this question goes to you first. What experiences have contributed to your qualifications for City Council?
So as I mentioned, I have more than 10 years of experience in regional economic development. A lot of that has been based in entrepreneurship and small business development, and especially finding ways to bring folks who have been traditionally underrepresented in small business into the fold. So that is working with women, working with racial and ethnic minorities, working with lower income folks. And as I also mentioned, I feel like I have a strong base in the community through my time at DACC, where I had the opportunity to see people from throughout the region of all ages, some right out of high school, some lifelong learners. And I think that those one-on-one interactions with such a broad base of people have really given me insight into this community, made me love it more, and made me want to serve.
Thanks, Becki. Bev?
Hello. My experience is raising my kids in District 33. Sorry, not 33, 3. I have 2 kids that are doctors that are on the front lines with working with COVID, and one that's a nurse. And District 3 has lacked prosperity most of the time that I've lived there. And so basic things like infrastructure and jobs for the people has been lacking. District 3 is worse now than it was 4 years ago. There's more people on the streets, more empty buildings. There's no jobs. We need a change. And I bring traditional capitalism, which capitalists lets the money stay with the people, and that gives them hope of reward. It's freedom of choice. And being getting a job and working under the threat of violence from the government, it takes away motivation for the business owner and for
Thank
the
you, Bev.
employee.
We're out of time on that question. A follow-up, Bev, we begin with you on this. What is the role of city government in addressing poverty? Explain, Bev.
Well, they invite companies in that will hire people. They lower taxes, lower regulations, finding there's jobs out there. We just need to bring them to us. And there's all kinds of creative ways to bring jobs to the community. Also, there's all these empty buildings down there. You have to give them incentives to help people be entrepreneurs. I know I didn't say that right, but to help them want to be startup businesses, help them want to have pride in their own community, and support their neighbors and their neighborhood. The city's job is safety and security. So when you have homelessness like we do right now, I don't know where they all came from, it brings in crime. It discourages a safe, happy feeling on the street.
Thank you very much, Bev. Becki?
I agree that things like infill development policies, zoning that's going to incentivize moving new small businesses into perhaps existing vacant buildings. I think all of those can be extremely important. But I also agree in a more direct person-to-person role to deal with poverty in the community. I've looked a lot into the talks around guaranteed basic income that are going on in the city council and in the larger community. If we look at the US average, a minimum wage worker needs to work 79 hours a week to afford a 1-bedroom rental, 97 hours a week to afford a 2-bedroom rental. So living paycheck to paycheck on a minimum wage job is like running really hard on a treadmill. You work so hard, but you don't get anywhere. And I think that we need to find ways to give people the stability and security they need so they can take advantage of opportunities like more education, training.
All right, thank you, Becki. Laura.
We're going to start with Becki. What is your opinion about using general obligation bonds for affordable housing, and why do you think that?
I am supportive of using our GO bonds for both affordable and attainable housing. So I know there's a distinction. I'm looking not just at the government definition of affordable housing, but also at attainable housing, making sure that people can get into safe, secure housing where they can thrive. I think that existing affordable housing units need to be assessed and upgraded as needed to make them secure, comfortable, and pleasant as possible. We're looking for quality of life, not just putting people in any home. We also need to make sure that our most vulnerable populations are put in housing units that have access to services that can help them thrive, physical, mental, behavioral health services, and also that they're situated near city transit. So they have opportunities to go to school, to get to work, and to take care of their basic necessities.
Thank you, Becki. Bev?
Well, affordable housing. Owning your own home is the American dream. And when people own their own home, they have pride of ownership. The market tends to drive what's available for apartments. And here we're a university town. Apartments fill up in the fall. And so if you're a regular resident, they know that you look for an apartment in the summer or in the spring. The less government is involved, the more freedom of choices that people have. Government housing tends to be full of crime and people that are not working, and it's a downhill spiral. You can go look up the statistics on it, that it denigrates. I'm not getting that word right for some reason, but it goes downhill. So there's codes. So that could be a thing that codes could do if the houses don't have the proper security as far as, the plumbing and the fire hazards.
Okay, thank you very much, Bev. We're going to move on to the next question, and we will start with you, Bev, on this. Do you believe the city police department needs to make any more changes with regard to use of force policies? Explain.
I'm glad you asked that question, Fred. I am well trained in the use of force, and their use of force at the police department comes from their training. And I do think that we could have a discussion about that. One thing is that the taxpayer pays the police wages, and so they have to respect the people that paying for their, their salary. But on the other hand, our police force is down 52 officers, and you don't even see a policeman on the street. So people are racing up and down the highway, the city streets. People are getting run over. We're experiencing murders. Honestly, the police department and the fire department are our priorities for funding. We need to give them competitive wages. I think we could bring back a drug team and not only bring it back up to 200, but perhaps add a few police. If we're going to have all these homeless people that are coming here from out of state, out of town.
Thank you very much, Bev. We're out of time on that. Becki?
I think that the key is taking a proactive approach to crime rather than reactive. Too often, I think that situations that could be addressed more constructively, preventatively, are left until they become emergent. First, I think the city can expand availability and accessibility of non-law enforcement services that are demonstrated to prevent crime. And we're talking everything from the affordable housing and dealing with poverty that we've already discussed, on up until things like better infrastructure with more lights, environmental design that prevents crime. But I also think we need to expand or introduce more community policing activities. I've volunteered alongside police officers at the Sammy Burke Youth Boxing Facility in District 3, and I've seen firsthand the impact it can have for at-risk youth to have a relationship with a police officer outside of a law enforcement setting.
Thank you, Becki. Appreciate that. Laura?
All right, as a follow-up question, this goes to Becki first. Do you support a citizen review board to examine police department actions? Please explain.
I do. I think that is critical to establish the sense of trust and working together that leads to adequate and safe policing for everyone. I have tremendous respect for what our law enforcement officers do. My husband's a firefighter. He's often working alongside law enforcement, and we've come together for a lot of charity events. I'm friends with a lot of the police officers, and what they do is difficult, and at the same time, while we acknowledge that, accountability has to be in place. And I think continual conversations with the community through something like a citizens review board would be an excellent step to keeping communication going, but again, to building a sense of trust and community.
Bev?
I probably would approve of a citizens review board, or we could take citizens from maybe each district and put them on the board that looks at when a violent crime is committed or there's a police shooting, which incidentally, most of them happen in District 3. That's unacceptable. There's solutions to that problem, and we will find those solutions, whatever it is. I think that we need to foster an atmosphere of cooperation and respect, not only for the community, for the police, but the police towards the community. And that would go a long ways. We would engage the community, like well, sorry about that, but we could be telling the police, because when you're in trouble and you have a violent criminal, you're going to be glad to see that police officer.
All right,
They come into dangerous situations.
Thank you very much, Bev. We're going to move on to the next question. How should the city manage the development of the recreational cannabis industry? Bev, we start with you.
Okay, that would require a lot of research on my part. I'm looking at the places now in District 3 that are actually growing and selling cannabis, and it's attracting the kind of people that are not like your outstanding citizen. So they do need to be regulated, and they do need to make sure that they are upholding community standards, that they're obeying the law. I understand that they add a lot of additives to the cannabis that they grow and sell. And my ideal was just that people could grow it in their backyards and it would be organic herb. But it's developing into something like that. And where they sell it, they're also selling drugs. We need to do something about the drugs on our streets that do damage people.
Thank you very much, Bev. Becki?
I'm really excited about the economic opportunity that legalizing cannabis use and sales brings to the community. This is a chance to market a product that can be grown locally, sold locally, and can bring out-of-state dollars into our community, especially given our proximity to El Paso and Texas. There's a very real possibility of improving with out-of-state dollars here in Las Cruces. I also think it's exciting to see opportunities for small businesses and micro businesses through entrepreneurship in the burgeoning cannabis industry. The City Council recently approved an ordinance regulating cannabis businesses, and I also need to look deeper into all of the language of that. But I think it's a solid start. We have in place regulations, hours of operation, distance from schools that are serving, K through 12 schools. And it's also, again, a chance to revitalize and repurpose some of those vacant buildings in District 3 and have a chance for community growth and more economic prosperity.
Thank you. Laura?
Starting with Becki, what do you see as the strengths of city government?
City government is an opportunity for anyone in the population to have direct access to one of their leaders. And I think that that is a rich opportunity that I've learned to take advantage of since I've been here in Las Cruces. The idea that we have a counselor who lives probably pretty close to us, who can understand our issues, who knows what we're talking about when we mention the corner of Espina and Kansas, in my case. That accessibility and that personal touch is what makes local government so impactful. And I think giving a sense of empowerment to people who maybe do feel lost in a larger political milieu, to have the access to someone directly, that to me is the most important part.
Thank you. Bev?
Yes, it's about local, it's about having cooperation with the people at the neighborhood level. And if they have a problem, they can come right to you and say, what is this? I would like to know, for example, why did we suddenly have so many homeless people on the street and they're camping out on private property and they're leaving trash all around? And I went to my local grocery store and I actually found a needle, people camping out on the streets. And that doesn't speak well for us. I don't want my neighborhood to look like a trash heap. I don't want my neighborhood to look like it has people that have no home and we don't know who they are. We don't know who they are. We know we have drugs. We have a lot of drugs in the community. Why are
Okay,
there so many
Bev,
drugs in our community?
we're out of time on that question.
local
I'm going
city-
to move to the next question now, which is the opposite of that question. In your view, Bev, what are the weaknesses of city government?
Well, right now, I went to try to call the police department to just have a meeting to find out what their concerns are. They didn't even answer their phone. If I have an emergency, are they going to answer? Mental illness is rampant among us, which is also one cause of homelessness. And that's the city's job, is to make sure that the citizens are safe and secure. I know that we have a low rating on the fire department. Well, they work really good, but our insurance is up because of it. And why? Because less personnel than they should have for the high rating, less trucks than they should have, and they're built far away. So it measures out to, insurance measures out to the time it takes to respond to a fire.
Thank you, Bev. We're out of time, and we'll move now to Becki.
When we look at local government generally, I think you always run the risk of creating and existing in an echo chamber. We have all, I'm sure, been in situations where we have the same people in government for a long time, and it seems that we don't get any fresh voices or fresh perspectives. And I think that the city of Las Cruces is making really impressive strides on bringing new people and bringing new voices into government positions. So I think just as the accessibility and the know your neighbor can be such a wonderful benefit, you do run the risk of just perpetuating existing power structures.
Laura?
All right, you have both sort of touched on this a bit, but the next question, starting with Becki, is how should the city work to foster economic development?
So obviously, I think entrepreneurship is key. Being able to bring, again, just as I'm talking about having new voices in government, having new people being able to have access to entrepreneurship. So giving people the chance to actually experience the social mobility that those who have been succeeding long term have enjoyed that prosperity. I'm very interested in discussions about moving new business incubation facilities around the downtown area. I think that's key. I'm also continually interested in things like the El Paseo Solano Business Corridor Revitalization Project. So again, I think we need to leverage some of the existing resources that have maybe fallen to the wayside, rather than continually focusing on new construction or something new in other parts of the city. I'd like to see more repurposing and revitalization here in District 3.
Bev?
Well, we do have the university here, and we have the spaceport. So we need to educate our kids. We need a good public education system. Our kids we're like 49 in public education. People that would come and work in the high-tech industry want good schools. They want their kids to be able to read. If we have a literate workforce, we'll have a better chance of them starting up new businesses and working in the space industry that's here. We got to be a little bit forward-thinking at looking at trends and welcome them here, welcome them to this place, and offer a safe and secure environment, offer good education, and they will be here. We've got everything else. We've got good weather. We've got beautiful landscape. Environment is good. Although, as far as streets and infrastructure, Instead of just doing the streets in your district when it's your time to be elected, we should budget for that. We should budget for infrastructure so that we have a systematic plan to go and repave the streets and make everything updated.
We're out of time. Bev Courtney and Becki Graham are the candidates for Las Cruces City Council in District 3. Laura Castille is with the League of Women Voters of Southern New Mexico. Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fred.
We are out of time. Thank you for joining us for Election 2021, the Las Cruces City Council Forum for District 3. We hope you'll join us next week for a forum with the City Council candidates in District 5. Have a great week.